All right. Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Travel and Sip, a show that gives you a taste of the world. I'm Kieran,
And I'm Ingrid.
and through this show, we'll share with you our experience and our love of travel to hopefully inspire you to enjoy what the world has to offer. So each episode will go somewhere different. We'll tell you about the things to see and do and how to get there, but also have a little taste of something nice from that area that we love to enjoy. So I guess today, Ingrid, where are we off to?
Today, Kieran, we are off to Champagne,
Ooh,
somewhere that we have both been in the beautiful country of France.
indeed, indeed, and what a wonderful place! I guess, an area that is synonymous, obviously, with sparkling, but has quite a rich history. Specifically, today we're off to Reims, the capital of the region, and one famous for a number of things. But I see you got something you're trying to get out there, Ingrid. What's that?
Well, no, I was just going to pull you up, Kieran, because I'm not a French expert, but I have been trying to practice how to say this because it is not Reims. So,
Okay, so how do you say that? What are we talking about here?
okay, so it is extremely complicated, but I'm going to say it and then I'll try and spell it out so you can kind of maybe follow how it goes. So it's Reims,
Rents?
Reims. So it's like
Yeah.
Rahince.
And it
Reims.
sounds like you really got to get it from the back of the throat. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah. So
rolling your
I don't even know if I actually say it 100% correct, but I do know that it actually sounds like there's an NCE in there, not an MS. So
so you're
it's very
right,
odd.
and you're talking about like Alex Rance, is that kind of, but Rance with a little
Yes.
R at the back of the throat.
Correct. Correct. That is a good analogy. And I'm a Richmond fan. Even better.
All right, cool. Well, that's good to know. Like, I mean, I guess one of the things when you're traveling in France is that the language is a lot of similarities. I've found, but some of that pronunciation, there's a lot of a lot of that sort of back of the throat kind of stuff, isn't there? So,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. But they do love it when you try. Even if you sound awful when you do it,
yeah,
anyone anywhere in the world, if you're visiting their country, definitely give it a go to try and say it the right
yeah. Try and channel your inner Inspector Clouseau and get stuff.
way. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so I guess when we're off to Reims, what are you drinking today, Ingrid? What's your little tipple from this area?
Yeah, so today, of course, I have a glass of champagne here with me. So I've just popped a bottle of Mumm, GH Mumm, which is obviously a very popular champagne
Yep.
that we drink a lot in Australia. But also, you will find the champagne house of GH Mumm in France. In France, and I went to the Champagne House just last year and did a tour of the Champagne House. And yeah, so I enjoy a glass of Mumm. So I did go to the bottle shop today and buy myself a nice bottle of chilled GH Mumm.
Beautiful. And did you visit Mum because you enjoy the champagne prior to that, or is it something that you've grown to love since that trip?
No, I enjoyed the champagne beforehand. I think Mumm is something most people probably have had before. So it was definitely one where I looked on the list of champagne houses you could go to and went, oh, I know that one, should definitely go there. So there's some of the others you might visit where you maybe haven't heard of them before, but and are less well known here. But yeah, definitely Mumm was one that I had enjoyed many times before. So I was keen to actually go to where it came from.
Beautiful. And my
What about
tipple
you?
today is a lovely Tatangier Brut, or Tattanger, but Tatangier, I think, if we're going for Ingrid. And I myself was a young traveller when I came across Tattanger. It's probably the first champagne that I really tried. So on a trip, I've actually got a little photo here. I can show you from that trip many moons ago.
Hey, look at you, so young.
Big bottle of Tatangier, and clearly had come through Belgium on the way to Reims on that occasion. If you know where it's located, it's kind of in the northeast, isn't it, of France,
Yeah,
not far from Belgium.
yeah,
And I guess it's other things in that area are things like World War One battlefields. And I guess the other thing that Rennes is really known for is its cathedral. It's certainly
Yes.
a stunning place.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It's
one of that.
beautiful.
There's
Hey, look at that. Look at that old caravan in front of it, the motorhome.
That's incredible. It was 2002 back in the day, but it's beautiful. And I mean, many people think of Notre Dame de Paris when they're thinking about cathedrals in France, and unfortunately, there's been some terrible stuff happen with that in the last year, and hopefully that'll get rebuilt. But there are many cathedrals around the area, and in fact, there are five grand cathedrals, Notre Dame's, in an area sort of within 100 kilometres or so of Paris, so including Notre Dame de Paris and Notre Dame de Reims. But there's also Chartres and Amiens and a place called Laon, which is Laon, which is actually where I stayed on this trip. My battery's really low too by the looks of it. But anyway, there you go. So I'm just going to take that out. But yeah, but they're all beautiful. They all started, I think, in like the 1300s. These cathedrals and beautiful Gothic architecture, known for those flying buttresses, but also for the beautiful stained glass windows and sculptures and these sort of bits and pieces. So yes, Champagne is huge, but it's such an important place for some beautiful Gothic architecture as well.
Well, I think
your
we need
experiences.
some champagne.
Oh yes, well, cheers to that.
Cheers.
So on your trip there, you were just there last year, Ingrid. Tell us about how you first of all got there. Where were you staying? Where did you arrive from?
Yeah, so for me, I actually came straight from the airport, which is actually, I think, something that maybe not many people realise you can do on public transport. So I actually came from Charles de Gaulle and went directly to Champagne-Ardenne TGV station, which is actually the high-speed TGV regional station. So a lot of TGV trains, which is the name of the high-speed trains in France, they go through Champagne-Ardenne before they go on to other areas of France. So that only took me about 35 minutes from Charles de Gaulle Airport. So it's super fast from the airport, even quicker than Paris. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very easy to do. And Champagne-Ardenne station is actually I think it's about 8 kilometres from the city centre of Reims. So you've still got to get into the city centre from there. But we actually transferred just from the TGV high-speed train onto a small regional train. It's like a 5-minute transfer and they're fairly frequent. So we just had that included in our ticket when we bought the ticket, and we were able to just go straight into the middle of the city to the central station in Reims from there. So it was pretty easy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And both of us have worked a lot with trains, Ingrid, haven't we? So we do love a train journey or two, but really in France, the way to go, isn't it? Like, I remember when I went there, I was driving with my aunt and uncle, and it's just mayhem some of the times, particularly around Paris driving. So I think it would be my choice of travel would always be train, particularly in France. I mean, the high-speed network's amazing. Tickets are pretty cheap. It's a pretty good way to go.
Absolutely. You can get from the middle of one city to the middle of the next. You don't have to worry about the tolls. You don't have to worry about where you're going to park your car. You don't have to worry about driving on the other side of the road. And particularly in Champagne, you want to actually enjoy the champagne. So let's face it.
There are miles and miles of champagne caves. Is it caves that they call them? There really is, isn't it? In the sort of built into the chalk that's underneath Reims and Reims. And there's some other villages around as well. Epernay is the other kind of champagne town.
Yeah. That's where a lot of the headquarters are, actually.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that. Like we talked about a couple of the wineries in Reims, but if you're Epernay, do you know many that are stationed there or have their headquarters there?
Yeah, so Moet and Chandon does, which is obviously a big one that a lot of people in Australia will have heard of and drunk before. So that's in Epernay. And then there's another couple who I'm sure I'm going to absolutely butcher the French pronunciation of, but Paul Roger is there as well, which people may have heard of. So there's a couple of others as well. Mercier is also there, which is a really well-known, famous champagne family in terms of history, but probably not something that we see a lot of in Australia. I'm not sure how much they export to Australia, but it's not a commonly drunk champagne here, so I don't know much background about that. I was actually reading before we did this episode, Kieran. I was reading a little bit more about Epinay because I haven't been there myself, and I found it really funny because the Mercier family, who has that champagne house, actually held a car rally in their underground cellars in 1950, and not a single bottle was broken.
Joking.
How good is that?
It just goes to show like how huge it is.
Oh,
the network
massive.
you sort of think of like an anthill or something like that, and it's just these little extensive bits and pieces.
Yeah. There's
I
think more than 400 champagne houses in the region, and like literally hundreds of kilometres of cellars, hundreds under the ground that you'd never know were there.
So when you're talking about things to see and do, I mean that's one of the key things in these areas, isn't it? Is to visit these caves. You can take tours. The picture I showed you before was the Tatange. I think you might have done that one too, Ingrid. Potentially, was that right?
Yeah. Yes. I did do Tatange as well, and then I also went to Vrenke Pomeray, which is another one in that region, and Veuve Clicquot as well, which obviously is another one that we've all heard of in Australia and is a pretty popular champagne to drink here with the beautiful yellow label.
Absolutely.
Well,
it's very well known, and I know working in the travel industry for a little bit, both of us, Ingrid, have come across a lot of Veuve and a lot of Veuve bottles. I think it's been the go-to for many a travel agent, and probably a lot more in these times where it's where we're not seeing a lot of travel going on at the moment. But
definitely, we can keep dreaming.
Well, that's right. Hopefully, a few people are enjoying a nice glass of Veuve and at least taking themselves to champagne if in a certain way, if not physically. But
yes,
absolutely. I guess moving on to things to see and do there. Obviously, the champagne tours and the champagne houses is a major attraction. What else would you say there is to do there in Reims, Ingrid?
Well, I think that you covered it a little bit before, Kieran, in terms of, obviously there's the champagne houses, and I actually thought I'll show you some of my photos.
Great.
If you can see them there.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is actually from GH Moore. So this is from their cellar when I did the tour at the Champagne House. And this is like a museum room that they have at the end, towards the end of the tour, that you can have a look through some of the old machinery that they used to use back in the day to make champagne. So that's pretty cool. It's all really well set up. So you've got you can see the light boxes on the right hand side there, where you can actually see exactly what information on exactly when it was used and all that sort of stuff as well. You can see there, so the full extent of it. So that's that whole cave network going all the way down. All this is underground under the city of Reims. This is me at Pomeray having a bit of fun. This was after a couple of champagnes. Yes, but always good to have a bit of fun. So this was our tasting at Pomeray that we had. Probably something to note, which I don't know if you realised, Kieran, because did you just go to Tatange when you went?
Yeah, just the one. Just visited the one champagne house,
Yeah. So when you go to a champagne house in France particularly, you actually basically have to do a tour of the champagne house, and then it includes the tasting at the end as part of the cost of the tour. So what you'll find is that a lot of the information that you're given on the tour is actually the same. So it's very repetitive. They give you the history of the Champagne region, they give you the way that they produce champagne, and a tour of the cellars, and then you'll have a tasting at the end. Now, it's fantastic because obviously there's some subtle differences between the different champagne houses, but it is very much similar. So you really don't want to be doing more than one or two probably champagne houses, and especially not more than one or two a day if you're planning on staying for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So what we found was Veuve Clicquot is actually one of the only places in France that actually has offers tastings without the tour. So that's definitely one that I would recommend. And I believe in Epinay you can also visit more champagne houses without having to do the actual tour. You can just do the tasting. So you just have to look for the word degustation, which is basically tasting in French. And that means that they will offer you a tasting without having to do a tour. So just a little tip on that. Obviously, I saw the cathedral as well, like you. So my shot is not quite as beautiful as yours, but got it from a different angle. And also what I loved about Bunce was the quirky little street art that is around. Okay. It's really cool. And I don't know if you remember this or noticed this when you were there, Kieran, but I actually really loved this. There was some really great, all around the streets, there was really great artwork like this little Mickey Mouse with his umbrella that was actually poking out of the wall. There was another one that was like a rat mural that was on a really in a dark alley, engraved into a wall as well. There was some really cool little bits of artwork around the town, which I think gives it just this authentic flavour.
Cool little vibe going on by the sound of it.
Pardon?
There's a cool little vibe going on in Reims by the sounds of it.
There is, yeah. So I mean, I didn't take that many photos, but yeah, that was the end of my photos. But the other stuff that I had there, that I did there, was actually there's another abbey called Saint. What's it called?
Saint Remy.
Yes, Saint Remy. Yes. Did you go there as well?
No, I didn't, but I did read up a little bit on Saint Remy and who this was. And Saint Remy was a bishop who in, I think it was the 496, sorry, just looking at my notes here, but was the bishop of Reims, and actually coronated or anointed the first Frankish king, King Clovis. And from there, basically, Reims became the place where French kings were coronated. I don't know if you knew that, but there's probably about 3 or 4 that weren't coronated in the whole history of French kings in Reims. But really, in that cathedral that we've shown, that was the place where French kings were anointed right up until they were no longer, about a couple of hundred years ago. So it's quite an important place. But Saint Remy was the man who started it all. So you visited the abbey there of Saint Remy, and what?
Yeah, it's got a little medieval museum as well. So obviously from the time when Saint Remy was around, and I think it's just got it's really quaint. It was having some construction when we were there, so we weren't able to access all the areas, but that was over 12 months ago now. So give it a go when we can go back to France in hopefully 12 months time from now, and hopefully you'll be able to see it.
Exactly. And look, to be honest, I think you find if you're traveling in Europe, and probably anywhere in the world, that a lot of these old buildings, they do take a lot of maintenance, don't they? So quite often you've got things under construction and that sort of stuff. But probably also the good thing, I mean, current times excluded, is that you can go back time and time again, and gives you a reason to go back if you haven't quite seen something.
Exactly. Oh, I definitely want to go back and see Epinay. I think Epinay is a much smaller town. There's only 25,000 people compared to, I think, nearly 200,000 in France. So I'd love to go back there. They've got the Avenue de Champagne, which is supposed to be glorious and a great way to walk along and visit some of the champagne houses. So
beautiful. And whenever we talk about Epinay, I just can't get Kath and Kim out of my head. I'm pretty sure Epinay was the Kim.
The baby's name, yes. You just reminded me of that as well. Oh gosh, wow.
Just that's coming into my head.
Yeah. One thing I will say as well is that once a lot of people, I think, are under the assumption that they have to drive when they're there, like they should get to Reims and then hire a car, but you actually don't need to. So we actually walked from central Reims, where the main station is, all the way out to Tattanger, Veuve-Clicquot, Pommeraye, all within that walking distance. It's about a 20-minute walk, so obviously you need to be able to be reasonably fit and healthy, but it was a fairly flat walk, and to be honest, when we were there it was over 40 degrees. It was that heat wave last summer that France had. And we still managed, took some water with us, and we were good. So I definitely recommend that people can still walk and feel comfortable to walk, if they don't want to do a full tour with hiring a bus or a taxi or hiring a car and having to have a designated driver.
Exactly. And look, I mean, I guess being so close to Paris, really, it's less than an hour. It's kind of a really good day trip. If you
Oh,
ask me in Paris.
perfect day trip.
On the other
Absolutely.
hand, I guess when I went with my aunt and uncle, we stayed in Long, which is probably 20-30 minutes away from Reims, and and just the countryside around the area was so beautiful. I have this memory. I mean, it was quite a while ago, but I just remember driving through the countryside with them and
Mm,
taking some time out there. So I guess if you were spending, you could do it as a day trip, but also it's worth thinking about that area in general as somewhere that you could base yourself and have a beautiful holiday in itself. If you want
absolutely.
to immerse a little bit more in all things champagne and the area.
Yeah, agree. Absolutely agree.
Cool. Well, I think we've covered Rennes pretty well, Ingrid. It's obviously
We
a
have.
land of champagne, but a land of
Yeah.
history and of importance, and also, by the sounds of it, somewhere that's really gaining a nice little, a cool little culture going on there, and lots of cafes and restaurants, I guess, popping up along the way too. Um, so definitely a place we'd recommend. I'm recommending the Tatange Brut, a nice little Chardonnay Pinot Noir sparkling. Would you recommend your mum, Ingrid?
I would always recommend Maume Cordon Rouge, which is the Maume that most people will get at the bottle shop here in Australia. So highly recommended.
Absolutely.
Santé, Kieran.
Santé.
Drink
Um,
well and travel often, everybody.
Beautiful. And until next time, I'm Kieran.
And I'm
This,
Ingrid.
this is Ingrid, and this is Travel and Sip. Thanks for watching.